come into the hospital without knowing about the 7 sisters that came from Adrian just a little bit after World War II. They had gone on a train and came out here to Nevada when it was just dirt and founded a hospital.
It had been a military hospital, and then I think it was attached to the factories, and the factories had shut down.
They felt that there was a need to provide health care to a small community who didn't have it.
The agreement was you can pay $1 if you will assume all the debt of the hospital. So it took 25 years for the sisters to the hospital to pay off the debt. A lot of people don't remember that part of it.
There were only 3 or at most 4 that were actually nurses.
The priest from St. Peter's, I think his name was Father Moran, had this little 2-door car. They went to meet the train on June the 27th, 1947 to pick up the other sisters. And I still cannot imagine how all those sisters got in that car with their white habits, their black cloaks at night, and drove from the train station in Las Vegas to Henderson, you know.
And by the time they got here from the train station in Las Vegas, it was dark. When that sister woke up in the morning, she looked out and she said, "There's nothing out there. There's nothing but tumbleweed." And she wrote home to someone and said, "If I could go home, I would be willing to walk the whole way." And that sister stayed 13 years, I think, here.
Those 7 sisters, and I do remember one very, very strongly, and that was Sister Marie Daniels. She was very young at the time, and she came out on that train with the other 6. And I worked with that woman.
I think it was the story about Ray Daniel, was that they didn't have incubators at that time. And so if a little baby needed to be kept warm, she would put this little baby in her pocket of her apron, I guess, and carry it around to keep it warm.
But she was a great nurse, very strict, but a very good nurse.
You know, they were on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The units were kind of segregated, but our sisters said that's not going to be. The people here that were in those factories, they were all different cultures, and so they said, you know, we're all one human family. So they changed that very early on.
As community became bigger and grew, we were part of that. Not just a hospital that planted themselves here later, we were here at the forefront.
Their insight and their input about why we're there was a constant reminder of the hospital's mission and how we're different from other hospitals.
About 84 sisters across these 75 years. But the sisters who actually lived here and served in the hospital, over 500 cumulative years and counting up all their years.
There's not a day goes by that I don't think of St. Rose. Not a day goes by that I don't think of St. Rose and what it meant to me and what it continues to mean to others.
Before I walked into the emergency room or walked into a room in the ICU, you know, I prayed for guidance. I mean, I surely did, because I didn't know what would be awaiting me on the other side of the door.
New employee orientation, having the opportunity to meet the employees, to talk about how their values and their choices matched ours and how did ours complement them.
If you're having a bad day, you know, here would come Sister Michael, slap you on the back. "How's it going, Donna?"
Sister Robert Joseph and Buckaroo days. Not too many people were around at those times. She would take the kindergartners on a tour of the hospital. She would dress up in cowboy gear. All the maintenance men would dress up in cowboy gear, and yes, they had their little cap pistols on their hips, but they also had water pistols, and they would shoot at the kids as they go through, and the kids would squeal. And the one time I remember the most is when Sister Robert Joseph was in her full habit, and she pulled out a super soaker and nailed Dustin Wheat, who was the sheriff.
What they left is a legacy. They've left the meaning of what we do.
Many times when I would look into our employees' eyes, there would be tears when I would be blessing their hands, and when I would ask them about the tears. Many times they would just say, "I just feel so blessed to be here."
And one of the doctors was standing there, wanted to see me, and he said, "If you're doing the blessing tomorrow, I want my hands blessed." He said, "Well, you need to know I'm Jewish." And I said, That's not a problem. So the next day, instead of just drawing the cross, I was able to put a Jewish symbol onto his hands with oil. He thought that was a cat's meow. He just thought it was great. He'd come around and he'd see me and he'd say, look, holy hands, holy hands.
When Sister Phyllis was leaving, she said, we came 75 years ago and we planted the seed, and it's up to us, it's up to the staff to nurture and continue those seeds.
You'll carry the mission of the original 7 sisters and all the sisters that have come after.
And I want to extend my congratulations to every single member of our staff. They have been the backbone of our community there, and they always will be. And I know today it's wonderful to have such very distinguished guests with us, as well as our Dominican sisters who are present there today, I know. So, in my heart, I'm there too. And I want to send my God love and bless you all. May you continue giving to St. Rose de Lima in the years to come.
That tradition is so important to carry on. And I believe all of those sisters have gone on to God, but they haven't really, because their spirit is still here.
That's what life is really all about today. And when you get older, sweetheart, you appreciate it more. Because I'm going to be 96.